keep my foot buried. To the top. And there you go.
Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be working on my 1997 Honda Civic hatchback. And if you guys haven't seen the previous video on this car, I'd really recommend checking it out, and I'll make sure to leave a link above. Now where we left off last time is Ray and I actually went to a self-service car wash, and we decided to spend some time and fully degrease the engine, because as you know, this car sat in an auction yard for months or even years on end, because we actually don't know the story behind it. But now that it's all cleaned up, we're actually going to be doing something really special today, where we're going to be starting a series where now we're going to start to dive in a little bit more to upgrading the car and being able to maintain a little bit of the OEM plus charm that this car has, but being able to also bring it up to the 21st century in 2023 and make it feel nice and modern for us to be able to daily it, but most importantly, take it out to the track at autocross and have some fun with it. So what we'll do is we'll walk in here and I'll show you guys what we got for today. And I want to give a huge thanks over to David and the team over at Hybrid Racing. And I'm happy to officially announce that I'm a part of the Hybrid Racing team. And they were kind enough to create me my own page and also give you guys a 5% discount. So all you got to do is click the link down in the description, go to my page, and you'll be able to sign up to get 5% off of everything on Hybrid Racing's site. So huge thanks to Hybrid Racing, and let's get back into the video. So what we got today is we got a short shifter install. Here, we can go down here in a second, I'll show you this. Here we have the short shifter that's actually going to be for not just the D series Hondas. So for those that don't know, the D series is like the D16 or D15 that you'll find in these older Hondas from the 90s. So this is gonna be like your 1.6 single overhead cam, VTEC or non-VTEC depending on the make and trim model. So this is gonna work for that. So what we have here is gonna be the top portion of the shifter. And then more importantly, this is the meat and potatoes of everything. So this is gonna be where we remove the original shifter in the car and be able to replace this and showcase to you guys the differences you can make with upgrading something like this with Hybrid Racing. So now on top of that too, since we have the opportunity and we're gonna be doing all this stuff at once anyways, we have their Delrin shift knob. So this will be another advancement in the stuff that we're going to be making here. So this is pretty lightweight. I was like genuinely impressed by this, and I believe Delrin is a material so that when it goes into the sun, it doesn't bake in the car. So like if it was a really hot day, you put your hand on it, it's not going to burn your skin off like it can sometimes with other vehicles. And then we have the, lo and behold, the shifter boot delete. So this is going to get rid of your traditional shifter boot and kind of makes it more aesthetically pleasing, and then you get to see the full intricacies of what's happening with the shifter itself. So as we hop over here, we can show you what it looks like right now and just what the OEM shifter would look like. As you can see on the passenger side, there's actually nothing wrong with the original shifter, but I think this will just be a really nice upgrade. And what's nice too is the adjustability that you can have with the Hybrid Racing shifter and being able to make this taller, because in racing scenarios, it's actually nicer to have the shifter shift away from your hand in a shorter distance. So as of right now, it's almost closer to the floor, but what we can do is, and fine tune today, is to see where the sweet spot is in being able to have it in a racing scenario where you just take your hand off very quickly, shift, and then you can be able to change to the next gear seamlessly without having to worry about anything. And you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 traditional shifter setup. Always got to make sure you get a little wiggle in there, but you know, for the most part, it actually feels pretty good. So I don't think there's any bushings or things that are like completely worn out, but then again, this is a 25-year-old car, so you never really know where the story ends with that. So I think with that being said, what we'll do is we'll get started here on removing the center console before we get this thing up in the air. And also when we get this up in the air, it'll be a cool opportunity for us to see the underpinnings of this car, because I don't know if it's a rusty, crusty mess. So I guess we'll see. Pull this out. Now this will give you access and make you able to see what's happening here. So this grommet will need to pry out of the way, which will open up access more to the transmission tunnel. So this should be pretty easy to take off. I think we can even leave it and just take it with the shifter altogether. So I think our job is basically done here. And then you see these two bolts right here. I think this is where the shifter assembly itself is being held up, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. We don't need to do anything with the cup holders, nothing like that, but just goes to show that all it really took was like, what, 4 or 6 screws? So easy. So let's get this thing up in the air and then we can show you guys more in depth about what it's gonna look like. Okay, so we got the car up in the air and this will be like our first time looking at everything with more of a full length view of the underpinnings because, you know, we've done this like stuff on jack stands and for whatever reason, Ray and I are so used to working on the ground that even when we did the coilover install, why didn't we put it up higher up? But anyways, what we'll do now is we'll get the light and we'll just go underneath here before we start to take off stuff for the short shifter. But honestly, what I'm really fascinated by is the fact that there's no rust. Usually car this old, you know, it'd get all rusty, crusty here. Even looking at the lower control arm bushings and all the underpinnings of the double wishbone suspension actually looks really nice. Full length exhaust going back here. We don't see any kinks. Hasn't been like bottomed out. You know, you see like a lot of slam cars and stuff. You'll see like right here where it'll start to scrape. But in this case, it actually looks really good. So the shifter itself is gonna be right here. So I believe it goes to this portion here and there's like a pin that we'll need to take out. And we can even drop this whole entire arm. And the shifter itself is actually right here. So I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see it on this side. So those two screws that are holding it are gonna be right there. So once we get those loose, we bring all this arm down and we unhook it from this side. And then it'll be very easy for us to do the adaptation of the hybrid racing shifter. There's no need, I think, to take down the exhaust, even though we probably could move these hangers off to the side. But I think for now, we should be really good in terms of what standing we're gonna have here. But I'm very impressed, man. I mean, for something that was sitting in an auction yard, this is like best case scenario, which is really awesome. I think this will give us a great foundation for when we do the secret portion of the project, which we can't tell you guys right now, but just know that it's on the way. Let's get to started on taking this stuff off. I believe, what is it, like a 10, 12? Looks like maybe a 12. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna use some penetrating oil to make sure that we can get in there, spray this down, make sure that it all comes out pretty smooth. And then I think we'll also start to investigate further where we need to punch this out, because I believe there's some sort of pin that we need to knock out here to take this out. And I think it may be on the top. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to spend some more time here and see. Oh, actually, I found it right here. Okay, so we take this bushing and we pull it back. And you see that right there? I believe that's what we need to punch out so that this will come out and we can put it back in. You want a long socket for this, real long socket. But I want this to be loose because we don't want to take it out all the way just yet, but it's ready to come out. Okay, so now that we spent some more time investigating here, this is actually where the pin, a lot of people like to call this the, you know, insert whatever vulgar word you want to use and then the pin itself, because we're gonna have to remove this snap ring, so we moved it out of the way. So you take this off and essentially it will give you access to this and you will punch it up. And you want to make sure that whatever punch you use is the correct diameter so that we can knock this out, pull this out of the transmission, and then be able to loosen this down and drop both of these portions of the shifter assembly itself so it'll make the installation of the shifter much more seamlessly and much more smoother. Let's get to work. Well preserved. I do see that there's an indentation that's gonna hold it on the other side, so we have to make sure that we put this in correctly. So I think what we'll do is we'll install it like this, and then you turn it at the end so that it kind of locks it in. So just make a good note of that if you're gonna do this install yourself. Now the fun part. I really hope I don't mess this up. All right, so we just dropped this down. All it is a 12mm bolt. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull past here. But essentially what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna just keep this hanging so I can lower this portion down. I wanna make sure we get an extension on here. This is ready to come down. So I'm gonna hold all this up, give this the old tug. Now we have the shifter assembly, so we'll transfer this over here, and then we'll be able to just work on it on the bench, which will make our lives so much easier. And what we have here is when we put over the shifter is that we are gonna have 3 spots for bolts. So this is a completely optional thing if you wanna do it so that it installs on all 3 spots, but you'll need to pilot a hole. But in this case, we're just gonna do the 2 and we should be okay. But we have to knock loose these 10mm bolts first. You have to be a little delicate if you want to do this. You could even remove this arm too. This could make our lives a little bit easier, but I'm just being stubborn and we'll do it this way for now. And you also want to make sure the configuration of the washer. So what you could do just to stay organized, and anything that you do with cars is you really just want to put this off to the side and remember how it was put back together before. If we were smart, we probably would have taken pictures or something like that. But in this case, we're just kind of winging it, doing it the tastefully clap way. So I'm gonna vice grip this side too, so we can hold this down. If I can get a good grip on it. So learn from our mistakes, loosen these while they're installed in the transmission housing. So now we'll be able to separate this. And now this will give us access to the shifter assembly itself. And maybe this is a good place for us to remember the configuration of this. So we want to make sure that this goes on top. So we'll leave that there. Now this should be interesting to get this off. I believe this just pops down. Or do we just remove it completely? I think we just do it by this bolt, which looks like a 12. So the install itself is actually relatively easy. So we gotta take this off. Should probably clean up a little bit. We're making a mess already, but this will kind of give you a general idea what the original OEM shifter looks like. We'll put this side by side with the hybrid racing one so you can see the difference. In terms of construction, I mean, it's night and day. This feels so robust, whereas this feels kind of dainty. So we spent some time and we took off the original shifter, including the boot. Now what's interesting is you're gonna see that there's two portions of the screws where they will go in correctly. And then you would need to be creative if you wanted to put in the third one. That's just for more reinforcement. Completely optional. I think at this point, since it's mostly just gonna be for light track use and daily driving, we're just gonna go in here and make sure we put the right screw with the washer and the nut. So you just like go here from the top, put it on its side, and then you should be able to easily tighten this down. But I think for the interim, since we're kind of learning as we go, we'll just lightly tighten things up here, and we'll move things over to the next side. Get another one in here, and I'm already just giddy with excitement to get this on here. But I do also want to make sure to provide you guys with a little bit of the walkthrough of being able to do this on your own. So we have this. We're gonna lightly tighten this up, and I don't think the boot is completely necessary at this point. I think honestly it looks a little bit more cleaner since you have the hybrid racing livery on the very top. But we also want to make sure that this is facing the correct way when it's in the car, because this has to go at a certain orientation. So I think we want it to be this way so that you have the adjustment for the shifter so you can fully adjust this, because when it goes in the car, it's gonna look like this. It's gonna look really, really awesome. But now our biggest obstacle is being able to figure out where this will fit, because it looks like it's a little skinny. Like there's some gap in between that's kind of missing. So I'm thinking what we can do is we can use the OEM little washers here and be able to seat these correctly like so. And maybe that will be just enough for us to get away with reinstalling this back together. But I'm gonna try it this way and see if it works out. But it looks like it lines up correctly, so I think this should be correct. And if not, I'm really sorry. This is gonna be tricky. Okay, so we spent some time just to clarify the configuration of when you put this portion of the shifter down here. So I believe the way that we have it from what we saw on Hybrid Racing's website is that you want to have the washers on the outside, and when you bring this all together, it will seat against here, and then the races of the shifter won't need any sort of spacer, because if you do this on a B16 or other B series engines, you'll actually need this spacer to go in between so that it can hold to this portion of the linkage assembly. Then you also need this longer bolt, but in this case we actually don't need that for today. So what we're gonna do is we'll just tighten this up. I think I'll do it by hand. You want to make sure that you don't over tighten this, because you are playing with bearings and races and things of that sort. So what we're gonna do is just tighten this up real quick, make sure it feels good. And like I said, if you need to reference anything on Hybrid Racing website, they have install guide to make sure that you can do this on your own successfully, and that feels pretty good. But we can even get the torque wrench out and make sure we get it to the correct spec. But just from feeling it, it feels good. And the fact that you can still move it loosely like this is a very positive sign. Okay, so now that we have this torque down to spec, you want it at around 16 foot-pounds, just to make sure that your shifter assembly doesn't completely come out. And then here, this is where you're gonna have the adjustment of the throw. So if you want this to be a longer throw, you loosen these up, and then you'd be able to essentially control how much of the throw you want, if I could find one that actually fits the correct size. Okay, loosen those. This is as long as it goes? This is as short as it goes. So this is like in the middle. So I think maybe we'll bring it up to 2. So I'll pin it right here at 1. But now we need to put this back up there. So we have the bolts that we need with the washers. Let's get it up in the air. I'm just gonna slide this here, okay? So we'll tighten everything up here, and we gotta put that pin back in, and then we can lower the car, and we can get started on seeing what the center console looks like, and then making the adjustments on the shifter as well. So this should be pretty cool. And also, you could torque these down too, but I don't know, after you do this stuff for a while, you can just kind of get a feel for when it feels snug. It feels pretty snug. Go here, tighten this guy down, it's another 12. Now the pin. We have to get this to align. I think it's a lot easier to get the pin back in. So you want to make super duper sure this is as aligned as you can get it. Okay, now what we're gonna do is the shift boot delete. Totally optional, depending on what you wanna do with your car. But I thought just to match the hybrid racing, we might as well do the cover as well. So we're gonna take this off, and all it is on the backside is literally just 2 screws. We'll get the screwdriver here, we'll pull this out. This is very thin, delicate plastic, so try not to crank on it too hard here, but this should be like the easiest part of the installation. We haven't even had a chance to look at the shifter yet. This will be a good time to check all that stuff out. This pops out, 2 screws here. I know I'm not talking as much, but it's like, what else am I gonna say about this thing? It does look really nice though, I will say. The ending product, I mean the before and after versus this kind of floppy, smelly. Oh God, foul. Why did I do that? So kind of glad we're putting this in here. So let's wheel it over to the center console and we can see what it looks like when it's all put back together. So this will be like the test fitting. Okay, like so. Okay, well, let's get the top portion of the shifter. So now this is where you can kind of get to play with the adjustment. I think I'm just gonna go a little hot boy here for today, and I'm gonna get it oriented so that it's as close as possible so that I can orient it this way. And then I'll keep the throw pretty tall and we'll get an idea of just like how it feels. This is really just a total preference thing. I'll probably end up adjusting this later, but I think for now, just for demonstration's sake, we'll just kind of keep it where it is right now. And I mean, just aesthetics wise, it just looks insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, it's really cool. I just like how close it is to the shifter. So it's just like an immediate shift, especially for autocrossing that first to second. This will feel really nice on the poles. Yeah, so I mean, for a longer throw setup, this is the way to go. The Delrin shift knob feels amazing in the hand. The craftsmanship of everything on this feels really nice. And I mean, this is a huge upgrade from stock, I would say. So for anybody out there that's got an old Honda looking to kind of spruce things up, elevate their shifting experience, I mean, this is definitely the way to go. I think that I'm gonna do some more adjustments here just to make sure that it's really dialed in. And it wouldn't be a complete video without taking this thing out for a spin. Now, I've spent some time making some adjustments to the shifter itself, and I got it to a place where it feels very comfortable. I even cleaned out the transmission tunnel, and I was able to reuse the original grommet that came on the car, so it keeps the insulation in. But even though it would be nice to get some more insulation, maybe on portions outside of the grommet itself, just to kind of dampen the noise, because the one thing that I have noticed is there is just a hair more road noise, because the shifter boot actually did a really good job of isolating that. But it's nothing to really bother you or write home about, but just something that I thought I would mention in case one of you guys decides to do this. Now, there's so many different adjustments that it's almost kind of overwhelming, so you get to really make this and cater it to your own, which is a huge plus if you're just somebody like me that actually prefers to have the shifter very high up. Now, it's going to be total preference to you. I would say that the one thing that you don't get from the OEM shifter is just this quality in the construction. I mean, every single element of this looks like something that was just crafted for this vehicle. It just feels very nice in the hand. Everything makes a lot of ergonomic sense. So I personally put it up here for now. I may change it down the road, but I think for now this is what I like. And honestly, after just driving this car for maybe the past like hour or so, I've really got to feel at home with it and use it. And there's a little bit of a learning curve for sure, because the engagement's just slightly different. But overall, it's very easy to get and to understand. So even if we start this up and we just hit down here on the road, I think it will do a better job of showing you guys what it actually feels like. So I'll get my seatbelt on here in a second, and since this car is not very audible, I think what I'll do is I'll leave that passenger side cracked, and I'll roll up the window here, so we'll get maybe a little bit of wind noise, but in return hopefully we get a little bit of hum from the engine. And before we go, we can kind of roll through the gears and see what you guys think about it, but this is where it's at right now. You can also adjust the height of this, and I feel like I got the throw to a point where it's not super short, but it's long enough where it feels fun and engaging. 2, 3, 4, 5. This is reverse. It goes into gear very well. Got a little wiggle. If you wanted it to be tighter, I would definitely recommend replacing the bushings, but the bushings actually look pretty good, and it still has a little bit of the original element that I actually enjoyed from the old Honda. It's not like a lot of slop, but it's just like a little bit of a wiggle, if you know what I mean.
So let's take this thing out and see what we can do. And I mean, this evening it's a beautiful day out here. It's nice when it doesn't rain. And I know you guys have been saying in the comments, where's the rain? Where's the rain? Well, it's not here today, that's for sure. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous outside. Perfect day for a drive on this sunny Sunday afternoon. And I'll drop it in the second here. Keep the revs up in the little Honda. See how it does. The little mighty Honda. Gives everything it's got. It's fun to just rev it out, even if you're not going fast. That's the beauty of these old Hondas, you know? You're not gonna be breaking any laws in this, but you can still have tons of fun. I mean, you just keep it in second gear. You just hear it growl and come to life. And the shifter action. 10 out of 10. Look at this. Yes. The only thing I still is the steering wheel, man. It's very hard to grip this thing. I don't know how well it's picking up on camera, but it's almost like I'm kind of having to fight it. It feels very greasy, even though I've degreased it and cleaned it so many times. It doesn't feel as sticky as like another wheel. I really think it would make a tremendous difference to upgrade that. So that's something that I got in the works right now that I'm trying to make happen, especially when it comes to just providing you guys with some content. But in the meantime, that's really awesome. I want to be careful here, but I do love this corner down here. I don't know how many times I've done this road. High on the revs, turn in, car just darts. Very nice, very nice. All right, let's see what we can do here. Give some more shifter action. Now we're going 20 miles an hour. This might be my most favorite mod with this so far. With this Honda, this thing right here. It feels absolutely fantastic. It just makes so much sense. And it just makes you want to keep using it. Like, I'm very excited just to keep driving the car. No agenda, not having to worry about anything. I'm just having a really good time. And I'd love to drive this at the track. We have an upcoming autocross event, so stay tuned for that. And we got some more parts installs, as well as some more content on the Acura Integra GSR. So we got a lot of things going on, but I'm very excited and I'm super grateful that we get to do all this stuff. And it's all because of you guys, man. All this happens because of you. So I want to take a moment just to thank you guys for helping support this journey of mine and being able to do the stuff that we do. And I make it in my best interest to provide you guys with stuff that's fun and entertaining. And I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Just like the little Honda.
But I really hope you guys got to enjoy today's video, and I hope it helps you with the whole installation process with this whole Honda stuff. But this is not where this ends for this car. We have so much more stuff on the way. Subscribe and make sure to check out our merch too if you want to support the channel. But I think with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.